Today is Monday, April 4th. We'll tell you what happened that has Western nations considering even more punishment for Russia and help for Ukraine. Also, something we haven't seen in more than 2 years now, a lot of free space at American hospitals. And which former vice presidential candidate is now running for Congress. Plus, why things might be especially slow at U.S. airports today. Who won the top awards at last night's Grammys. And look under those couch cushions, the reason some businesses want you to pay with coins. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Ukrainian forces are now retaking control over the whole region around their capital. But the last thing they're doing is celebrating. Instead, they're reporting of horrors from the ground. Like some clear signs that torture and execution-style killings had happened there, and that many of the victims were civilians, some even children. Russia says the accusations are not true. But Ukraine is now asking organizations like the International Criminal Court to send investigators to see the evidence of war crimes for themselves. This all comes after Russian troops moved away from the Kyiv area. Russia says it's now focused on eastern Ukraine, but there have also been recent attacks reported in the north and south. Russia has also been taking out oil refineries and fuel depots in Ukraine and cutting off Ukraine's water supply. At the same time, Russian forces have reportedly suffered great losses too. Still, some Russian and Ukrainian negotiators say they've made some progress in peace talks, and they're reportedly meeting again today. Now that images of brutal killings in Ukraine have surfaced, several European leaders are calling for tougher sanctions against Russia. Lithuania became the first country in the European Union to ban fuel imports from Russia, and Germany's defense minister said the whole EU should do the same. That's a big turnaround, since you may remember in the past, Europe has been reluctant to cut off Russian fuel, since Russia supplies 40% of Europe's gas and 25% of its oil. Now it seems more likely more countries will take that step. The images and descriptions from Ukraine may also prompt countries to send more military aid. And the U.S. just announced more assistance over the weekend. The Defense Department says another $300 million worth of military supplies are on their way. That includes armed drones, laser-guided rocket systems, machine guns, armored vehicles, and more. Overall, the U.S. has already sent more than $2 billion in military aid to Ukraine, and it's planning to send billions more. On top of that, for the first time, the White House will reportedly work with allies to transfer Soviet-made tanks to Ukraine. The New York Times cites an American official who said they'll go to the eastern part of the country. And the fact that they're Soviet-made is key, since that's what Ukrainian troops know how to use. But it's still not clear exactly which countries the tanks will be coming from or when they'll be sent. Stay tuned. Back in the U.S., there is an intense manhunt underway following the worst mass shooting in Sacramento, California history. Just as bars were letting out early yesterday morning, police say at least 2 shooters opened fire in the downtown entertainment district. 6 people were killed and a dozen more were hurt, some critically. Pop musicians Ali and AJ had just performed in California when it happened, and their tour bus was caught in the gunfire. But no one in their touring group was hurt. Investigators are now begging anyone who might have tips or videos to come forward so they can find the people responsible. So far, they haven't released their names, descriptions, or a possible motive. To be continued. A familiar face could be on her way to Capitol Hill. One-time vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin announced she's running for Congress. The Republican is hoping to replace Congressman Don Young. He held Alaska's one seat in the U.S. House since 1973, but died suddenly last month. Now Palin says she wants to honor Young's legacy and fight against what she called the left's socialist big government America Last agenda. So what exactly inspired her to return to politics? Apparently, former President Trump. As Fox News reports, Trump had a meeting with Palin last week and he encouraged her to run. Palin does face a lot of competition. There are about 40 other candidates running for the same seat. But at least one Republican strategist calls Palin the favorite. A special election is scheduled for this summer. Right now, there are fewer COVID-19 patients in American hospitals than at any other time in the pandemic. Yep, the COVID-19 hospitalization rate has fallen more than 90% in the last 2 months or so. And some hospitals are even going days without a single COVID-19 patient in the ICU. This is the first time that's happened since early 2020. The freed up beds are expected to help U.S. hospitals treat more non-COVID patients more quickly. And doctors hope this means they'll see people start to catch up on yearly checkups and cancer screenings. In some areas, doctors, nurses, and respiratory therapists are also getting a much-needed break. Elsewhere, they say they're nearly just as busy because they're dealing with staffing shortages and are getting a huge boom in patients who have been putting off needed care. Either way, experts say they'll keep an eye on hospital capacity around the country, hoping to see the trend continue. All right, we have much more news still coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. Why do flowers bloom? Why does it get warmer outside? Spring brings a lot of new curiosities and a chance for kids to connect with the world around them. KiwiCo embraces children's natural curiosity with their monthly science and art projects. I love that KiwiCo focuses on different STEAM topics. So that means science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And it can help spark a lifelong love of learning in kids. If you're at all worried your child might be too young or too old for these, don't be. KiwiCo has a subscription line for kids of all ages, ranging from infants and preschoolers all the way to teens. Of course, grown-ups are welcome to join in on the fun as well, because remember, you are not having to actually spend any of the time researching, shopping, buying, or planning these hands-on projects. So you can just sit back and enjoy them alongside your child when they are delivered to your door every month. I really appreciate that part of it, along with the high-quality materials they use. So step into spring and celebrate the season of discovery with a KiwiCo subscription. Get 30% off your first month plus free shipping on any crate line with the code newsworthy at kiwico.com. That's 30% off your first month at KIWICO, kiwico.com with the promo code newsworthy. It was a rough weekend for some travelers. Airlines canceled or delayed thousands of U.S. flights. Florida thunderstorms snarled air traffic at some of the country's top travel destinations like Orlando, Miami, and Tampa, as well as New York and Baltimore, among others. But Southwest Airlines faced more than the bad weather. It also dealt with a back-end technical problem. Overall, several airlines canceled or delayed about 12,000 flights across the country over the weekend. And 15,000 Alaska Airlines passengers were stranded Friday, but for a totally different reason. As the Seattle Times reports, dozens of flights were canceled because some pilots were picketing, and that left planes with no one to fly them. Alaska Airlines and the pilots union have been locked in contract negotiations for almost 3 years. As of now, FlightAware is already showing cancellations for several airlines today. In a historic move, Amazon workers in New York voted to become the web giant's very first union in the U.S. It was an uphill battle for the new group, which is made up of former and current workers. Now that there is a union, CNBC says workers could challenge Amazon's labor model, which makes Prime two-day shipping possible. So what's next? Well, now the organization called the Amazon Labor Union has to get to work trying to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement with Amazon. The workers want longer breaks, paid time off for workers who get hurt, and an hourly wage of $30. But Amazon says it's disappointed with the outcome, saying it's actually best for their employees to have a direct relationship with the company. Now Amazon is looking at options like filing objections to the election. And this isn't the only Amazon warehouse that could unionize. Workers at a second New York facility will vote at the end of this month. Alabama warehouse workers voted not to join a union last week. But final results will not be certified until its some 400 challenged ballots are resolved. There is a new NCAA women's basketball national champion. Top-seeded South Carolina took down number 2 Connecticut last night to claim the national title. Player Destiny Henderson ended up scoring the most points ever in her college career with 26, helping the Gamecocks secure their second title in school history. It was a really big win for South Carolina, too, since their opponent, UConn Huskies, have been a dominant force in women's college basketball, racking up a record 11 NCAA championships. And for the men's title, it all comes down to tonight. North Carolina faces Kansas in the final game of March Madness. Kansas is considered the favorite since they came into the tournament as a number 1 seed, while the 8-seeded North Carolina fought their way here, most recently by handing their fierce rival, Duke, a loss in the Final Four Saturday night. North Carolina takes on Kansas tonight at 9:20 Eastern Time. The game airs on TBS. Will Smith is seeing even more fallout from that shocking slap at the Oscars. The actor's planned Netflix movie called Fast and Loose has reportedly been put on hold. On top of that, The Hollywood Reporter sources say Smith's Sony movie, Bad Boys 4, was paused as well, even though that one was already in development. And on Friday, Smith announced he's resigning from the Academy. As Variety reports, that means he can no longer vote on who should win an Oscar. But his decision to resign does not impact his own awards. For example, he can keep his Best Actor Oscar and still be nominated in the future, at least for now. The Academy's president said the group still plans to move forward with its investigation and will also vote later this month as planned on other potential disciplinary actions against him. Of course, this all stems from Smith storming the stage during the Academy Awards a week ago. He hit and cursed at Chris Rock over a joke about Smith's wife. It was music's biggest night. The Grammys lit up Las Vegas last night with star-studded performances and, of course, a lot of awards. But before we get to those, there were some emotional moments, too, like when Ukraine's President Zelensky made an appearance. In a pre-recorded message, he made an emotional plea for support in his country's war with Russia. Or when the ceremony paid tribute to Foo Fighters' longtime drummer Taylor Hawkins, who died while on tour last month. As for the awards, that band, Foo Fighters, won 3 Grammy Awards last night. 19-year-old hitmaker Olivia Rodrigo won Best New Artist and Best Pop Solo Performance. But the night's top prize went to the most nominated artist of the night, Jon Batiste. He had 11 nods and took home 5 Grammys, including the biggest one, Album of the Year. Well, that's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, a message from our sponsor. I know the pain of trying to find a new doctor. There's a lot you have to know about them that is not always easy to find, like, will they take your insurance? Will they understand your needs? And when will they actually be available? ZocDoc helps you find those answers faster and easier. ZocDoc is a free app that shows you doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them. For example, I'm on the hunt right now for a new dentist, and I appreciate that I can easily find options that are nearby and in-network with just one click. Plus, I can filter for things like specialty, availability, and more. I found options that can get me in the very next day if that's what I needed. Or when quality is most important, I can read through the verified patient reviews to see what other real humans had to say about their visits. Just go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc, ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Now back to Money Monday. Businesses need help bringing coins back around. The U.S. Treasury got a letter from a group of trade associations that represent businesses that rely on coins, like banks, convenience stores, and laundromats. It asked the Treasury to remind Americans to dig out their coins and get them moving again. To be clear, it's not a coin shortage. It just says coins need to be put back in circulation. The letter says one of the problems is stores might not be able to make exact change for people who pay in cash. It could also hit people who can't pay for things electronically. For example, if people don't have coins for the laundromat, they might not be able to wash their clothes at all. But this isn't the first time we faced this issue. During the start of the pandemic, in that first summer of 2020, people started buying more online, with cards and not with cash. The government's efforts then helped for a while. So once again now, the government is encouraging people to get coins moving by spending, taking them to their bank, or using coin recycling kiosks like you see at the grocery stores. On the other side, there are people who support getting rid of coins altogether, especially pennies, since they cost more to produce than they're worth. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. We'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.